A modern torpedo is an underwater ranged weapon launched above or below the water surface, self-propelled towards a target, and with an explosive warhead designed to detonate either on contact with or in proximity to the target. Historically, such a device was called an automobile, locomotive or fish torpedo, colloquially a fish. The term torpedo originally applied to a variety of devices, most of which would today be called mines. From about 1900, torpedo has been used strictly to designate a self-propelled underwater explosive device. While the 19th century battleship had evolved primarily with a view to engagements between armored warships with large caliber guns, the invention and refinement of torpedoes from the 1860s onwards allowed small torpedo boats and other lighter surface vessels, submarines, submersibles, even improvised fishing boats or frogmen, and later light aircraft, to destroy large ships without the need of large guns, though sometimes at the risk of being hit by longer-range artillery fire. One can divide modern torpedoes into lightweight and heavyweight classes, and into straight-running, autonomous homers, and wire-guided types. They can be launched from a variety of platforms. The word torpedo comes from the name of a genus of electric rays in the order Torpediniformes, which in turn comes from the Latin torpere. In naval usage, the American Robert Fulton introduced the name to refer to a towed gunpowder charge used by his French submarine Nautilus to demonstrate that it could sink warships. Torpedo-like weapons were first proposed many centuries before they were successfully developed. For example, in 1275, Arab engineer Hassan al-Ramma, who worked as a military scientist for the Mamluk Sultanate of Egypt, wrote that it might be possible to create a projectile resembling an egg, which propelled itself through water, whilst carrying fire. In modern language, a torpedo is an underwater self-propelled explosive. But historically, the term also applied to primitive naval mines. These were used on an ad hoc basis during the early modern period up to the late 19th century. Early spar torpedoes were created by the Dutchman Cornelius Drebbel in the employ of King James I of England. He attached explosives to the end of a beam affixed to one of his own submarines, and they were used during the English expeditions to La Rochelle in 1626. An early submarine, Turtle, attempted to lay a bomb with a timed fuse on the hull of HMS Eagle during the American Revolutionary War, but failed in the attempt. In the early 1800s, the American inventor Robert Fulton, while in France, conceived the idea of destroying ships by introducing floating mines under their bottoms in submarine boats. He coined the term torpedo in reference to the explosive charges with which he outfitted his submarine Nautilus. However, both the French and the Dutch governments were uninterested in the submarine. Fulton then concentrated on developing the torpedo independent of a submarine deployment. On the 15th of October 1805, while in England, Fulton put on a public display of his infernal machine, sinking the brig Dorothea with a submerged bomb filled with 180 pounds of gunpowder and a clock set to explode in 18 minutes. However, the British government refused to purchase the invention, stating they did not wish to introduce into naval warfare a system that would give great advantage to weaker maritime nations. Fulton carried out a similar demonstration for the U.S. government on the 20th of July 1807, destroying a vessel in New York's harbor. Further development languished as Fulton focused on his steamboat matters. During the War of 1812, torpedoes were employed in attempts to destroy British vessels and protect American harbors. In fact, a submarine-deployed torpedo was used in an unsuccessful attempt to destroy HMS Ramillies, while in New London's harbor. This prompted the British captain Hardy to warn the Americans to cease efforts with the use of any torpedo boat in this cruel and unheard-of warfare, or he would order every house near the shore to be destroyed. Torpedoes were used by the Russian Empire during the Crimean War in 1855 against British warships in the Gulf of Finland. They used an early form of chemical detonator. During the American Civil War, the term torpedo was used for what is today called a contact mine. floating on or below the water surface using an air-filled demijohn or similar flotation device. These devices were very primitive and apt to prematurely explode. They would be detonated on contact with the ship or after a set time. Although electrical detonators were also occasionally used, USS Cairo was the first warship to be sunk in 1862 by an electrically detonated mine. Spar torpedoes were also used. An explosive device was mounted at the end of a spar up to 30 feet long, projecting forward underwater from the bow of the attacking vessel, which would then ram the opponent with the explosive.